Hello fellow audio nerds, I'm Steph and this is Major Hi-Fi. This week I'm continuing on my quest to listen to all of the Final Audio B series. So this week I got a chance to spend some quality time with the Final Audio B2. Now the B2 is the most affordable in the B series and it's comparable in price to the Fiio FH5 as well as the Campfire IO. But so how does it sound and what can you expect from it? Let's go back in time, I'll share with you my first impressions and then I'll meet you right back here for my overall thoughts. Alright, here we go. Oh, hey, Steph here. Before getting started into the review, I just want to say a quick thing. If you like this review and you find it really helpful, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and to subscribe to the channel. We definitely want to try and grow a little bit, so definitely want to hear your feedback as well. So let us know what you think in the comments down below. Alright, thanks. I'll see you in the review.
Hey everybody, welcome to my place. So today I have with me the Final Audio B2. So let's see what's inside the box here. Alright, so as you'll see here, it's a pretty similar package as the B1. So first things first, there's this silicone carrying case with room for the IEMs. There's some Final Audio E-type tips as well as an ear hook for the cable if you want it. Next, these are actually little grips that where you can use to remove the cable from the IEMs, because it's a little bit tough to get them out, so they provided these little grips here. Finally, this warranty card slash documentation, just some information about the earphones, and then, of course, the IEMs themselves, the Final Audio B2. So as for the design of these IEMs, you'll notice that the shape and size is very similar, if not identical, to the B1. And also to the Make series. So if the B series seems familiar to you, it's because they have the identical driver housings as the Make series, at least in terms of their shapes and everything. But one big difference is that the B2 here is made of aluminum, so it's kind of got this dark silvery color as well. But yeah, it also is a little bit lighter than the B1, but it still has a sense of weight to it. It feels high quality, and it definitely feels durable in the hands. And so does the MMCX connection. So does the MMCX connection to the IEM feel very nice and durable. So they'll last you a long time. But something I absolutely love about these IEMs is the overall look of them, because they have this feeling of maturity to them, this sort of like classiness because of that geometrical sort of shape that the driver housings do have. You'll see here that it's just like a very good looking IEM, and yet it's still able to have kind of this like good size that's compact and everything. But yeah, let's see how they fit in the ears. And yeah, it's an identical fit really to the B1, so they fit really well in the ears. I have relatively small ears, but because of the size of these and the general shape of them, that kind of like angular kind of shape, yeah, that fits really well. I find a seal almost immediately, and they feel really strong and sturdy in the ears. I actually don't feel like I even need the ear hooks on these, but you can even add those if you want to have that sort of thing. But the thing that I really like about it is that, like, while these feel secure in the ears, they don't really touch the ear too much, maybe just a little bit right at the edge, but it doesn't bother me, and because it's not such a like super tight fit, it feels like really comfortable. But I guess it's a little bit less secure than an earphone that's gonna like lock in your ear, but I like these, and I think they're gonna fit well for the majority of ears. Like I said, I have relatively small ears, but I think for those of you with larger ears, these are gonna work really well too, because so much of it just depends on that kind of angle of this kind of short-ish nozzle you'll see, as well as then the fit of the ear tips in the ear canal, and then the hook, and then the cable around the ear. So the cable of the B2, you'll see, It connects to the earphones via MMCX connectors, and they feel strong and durable. Just disconnecting them now. They do come with those grips, like I said, to disconnect them if you want, but I find if I can get like my thumbnail in there a little bit, I can get them out okay. But so these feel strong, and then it terminates to a 3.5mm connector here. This connector feels like it's made of aluminum. It feels well made, and it's got this L shape, so it sort of can avoid a little bit of tension on the cable when it's plugged in. But as for the cable itself, it's a very manageable size, kind of that standard 1.2 meter length. It also is really easy to wrap up. It's a very kind of small cable, nothing bulky about it. You'll see that each side has just one wire, so all the conductors in here all fit within the same jacket, and then when the left and right meet in the middle here, then they run alongside each other in separate jackets. So then finally, as for the drivers of these IEMs, there's actually just one balanced armature driver in here. So I am excited to see what they sound like, because it's kind of a simple setup, but we'll see how much detail it has. Final Audio claims that these have a really nice dynamic range, as well as kind of a quick response that you get from BAs. So yeah, we'll see how they sound. Alright, so let's take a listen here. You'll notice that I might sound like a little bit stuffed up. I've been dealing with a cold for really the past week, but I'm gonna kind of give it extra care to make sure that I'm really hearing what I'm hearing, and stuff like that. So anyway, let's see how it sounds. A sad reality of the audiophile life, because when you get sick, sometimes your ears don't act right, or they're not as it's harder to really focus on the sound, but let's see. Alright, I was just listening to the song Desperado by Rihanna, and yeah, the low frequencies sound clear. I was listening to the low synth there, which seems to have a nice amount of extension to it. However, the lows are definitely on the quieter side. These aren't a bass head earphone, but because of sort of the clarity involved with those low frequencies and kind of the way that the lows felt really kind of even, that the bass synth in the song felt still very impactful, just in terms of the role that it played in the song. But it's definitely a lighter bass response than I personally usually prefer, but I'm guessing this will end up being better for those that need who like that kind of neutral bass kind of feel. Alright, I was just listening to the song Roosevelt Room by Conor Oberst and the Mystic Valley Band. So in this song, the snare drum and the vocal definitely feel more present, more sort of forward in space than they usually do. They had this good sense of articulation, and same thing with the lead electric guitar, when the solo comes in, it definitely steps forward. But one thing that was kind of interesting was that the bass guitar had that sense of extension, that similar kind of feeling I described in the low frequencies, and but it also had great separation from the rest of the electric guitars and the organs and keys. There really was a nice sense of separation between the organs and keys, and it definitely came through in an interesting way, something I'm looking forward to examining further as the week goes on. Alright, I was just listening to the song Stuff by Miles Davis. Now, the trumpet definitely sat forward in the mix and really had that kind of sense of presence. The hi-hat felt thick and chunky. There's sort of this open-close pattern that happens, and as a result, I could really tell that it felt harmonically complex for all the cymbals in general. However, the higher highs definitely seemed to be a little bit quieter in their actual response. I felt that sense of extension, but it was just quieter in the mix. So kind of an interesting high-end response as well, because you still get that sustain, that texture from the cymbals, but it just, for whatever reason, felt like there's somehow a warmth to it, something that wasn't as, crispy, so to speak. Wow, I'm actually really impressed with the soundstage of these. I was just listening to the song Mercy Now by Mary Gauthier, and in this song, the vocal sounded very present, so did the acoustic guitars, and they really contrasted in a strong way from the far-off mandolin and the drums when they come in. So there really was, you could really hear that sense of space between all those things, and likewise, kind of the width felt nice and wide, with the acoustic guitars really feeling like they had contrast from the stuff in the center, the vocal, the bass, even some of the drums, for example. But the sense of height wasn't super crazy. You know, there is this like subtle feeling of extension I got from the cymbals, and then in the opposite direction from the bass. But as for just kind of like a feeling of extension in the height, it didn't really translate as much, just because those lows are a little bit quiet and so are the highs. But anyway, I'm definitely looking forward to listening to these more throughout the week, and yeah, I'll meet you back at the Major Hi-Fi office with my overall thoughts. Alright, here we go.
Overall, the low frequencies of the B2 are clear and have a lot of nice detail to them. Now, the low frequencies themselves have a little bit of a boost around 60 hertz, not much, but they do have a really nice feeling of extension to them, and it's got this like kind of subtlety to that feeling of extension. This subtlety has a lot of nuance, and it really creates a lot of space around the low frequencies. However, the lows are actually a little bit light and level than a bass head would really want. And as a result, kick drums don't sound louder in the mix by any means, but still maintain that feeling of tightness that makes them emotionally impactful. So I would say these are best for genres that don't need a lot of bass, but still benefit from tightness in the bass and punch in the bass. Now, the mid-range of the B2 has a clean and kind of clear sort of feeling to it. There's a little bit of emphasis right around 150, 200 hertz, kind of bringing basses and synths and kind of the left hand of pianos a little bit louder in the mix. But then the middle part of the mid-range feels pretty even. There's definitely this really interesting feeling of spaciousness and separation. I was super impressed by how mid-range instruments had great separation from the low mids and from the high mids. There is a little bit of a boost in the high mids around between 2K and 4 kilohertz, which sort of kind of brings vocals a little bit forward, and snaps of snare drums, and just kind of like attacks in general a little bit forward. But other than that, I was just really impressed by this feeling of fullness that also had separation. I think that sort of that feeling of like cohesiveness in the mid-range mixed with that feeling of like lots of specificity to where instruments was placed was super effective for dense instruments, as well as more sort of sparse instrumentations. And I thought it was something really well done and also very unique. Overall, the high frequencies of the B2 are a little bit moderate in level compared to the others in the price range. That said, they did have a nice sense of harmonic complexity. They had a great sense of articulation and had a nice detail in general. They're just a little bit quieter in the mix. That said, there was a little bit of a boost right around 7K, and this is the thing that really provided a lot of articulation, though it also sort of contributed to it not being super realistic sounding. So if you are looking for something with a really even high frequency response, these won't be the ones for you. They definitely have some character. Following that boost, there's a cut at 8K, which sort of kind of helps to make them not sound super harsh. It avoids sibilance, and it sort of brings it back a little bit in level, I think. Then there's a little bit of a boost right around 10 kilohertz, and this kind of adds in that extra little bit of airiness and kind of gives you this sense of extension that is very subtle. It doesn't really affect mixes as a whole, but rather just kind of comes across in certain instruments that have that part of the frequency response emphasized, like a very breathy vocal or something like that. Now, as for the soundstage of the B2, this soundstage definitely benefited from the quickness of the mid-range and that separation that I sort of mentioned there, because it definitely gives you that sense of depth because of the contrast between the very intimate sounding vocals, for example, and then instruments further back in space. Also, there is a nice feeling of width that doesn't feel super expansive, but really works with the mix and represents the mix in a pretty accurate way. However, the feeling of depth feels a little bit skewed just because of the high mid and lower treble presence around 7K, so that kind of brings instruments a little bit closer than they would otherwise be. But that said, I was super impressed by that interesting sense of togetherness, and yet being able to display kind of flares of emotion in the soundstage as well, and it's quality that is really unique and also kind of brings life and an aesthetically pleasing sound to the earphones as a whole. Overall, the Final Audio B2 has a stylish, mature look that fits really comfortably and easily in the ears. Now, its tuning kind of for me, sounded best with vocal-centric music like folk music, singer-songwriter, pop music. However, its mid-range also had a lot of harmonic complexity, so it worked really well for me for jazz as well. If you like a huge bass or you want really extended highs, these really won't be the ones for you. But if you like a really nice mid-range and lots of kind of movement and this sort of vocal-centric sound signature, then I think you'll really like the B2. Thanks so much for watching. For a closer look at the Final Audio B2, check out the link in the description box down below. I've left a link to my written review there, and you can see the photos more close up, as well as sort of read through my experience with these IEMs. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And for more videos like this, be sure to subscribe. Alright everybody, I will see you next time. Bye.